Darkness blankets the English Channel. The wind blows cold, cutting like blades across the faces of the men waiting, motionless, inside the warships. The sea is restless, but not as much as the thousands of soldiers on board, young men from different corners of the world, taking deep breaths, swallowing their fear. Some whisper prayers, others clutch crumpled photos of their families. All of them know that when the sun rises, many will not see another dawn. At the heart of this silent storm, one man stands still. General Dwight Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied forces, gazes at the horizon. His eyes are steady, but his mind is weighed down by the burden of a decision that could change the course of history. For months, strategists have planned this moment, calculated every risk, rehearsed every move. Now, there is no turning back. This will be the largest amphibious invasion in history. A force of 156,000 soldiers crossing the sea, marching against the Nazi fortress along the French coast. If they fail, Europe will remain chained under Hitler's rule. If they succeed, they will pave the way for the continent's liberation. Aboard the ships, absolute silence reigns. Engines hum softly, blending with the sound of waves crashing against the hull. The moment is near. In just a few minutes, the sky will be filled with bombers. The beaches will be stained with blood, and the fate of the world will be decided. The soldiers wait for the signal. The long night is about to end. Stop everything you are doing right now. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. D-Day has begun. Operation Overlord was more than just an invasion. It was an unprecedented feat of military engineering, a colossal puzzle where every piece had to fit perfectly. If a single detail failed, thousands of lives would be lost, and the fate of the war could change forever. The challenges were immense. The Normandy coast was a nightmare for any invading force. Beaches riddled with mines, barbed wire, fortified bunkers, and machine gun nests strategically positioned. The Germans had built what they called the Atlantic Wall, a massive line of defenses stretching along the coast of Europe, designed to repel any Allied landing. The soldiers who stepped onto that sand would be met with a storm of fire and steel, but the Allies had an advantage: intelligence, strategy, and the element of surprise. Before the invasion, spies and agents of the French resistance worked tirelessly to weaken the Nazi defenses. Railways were blown up, bridges destroyed, communication lines cut. The objective was clear: to cripple the Germans before the first Allied soldier even set foot on French soil. And then came the masterstroke, Operation Fortitude. The Allies knew they couldn't attack a fully prepared enemy head-on. They had to deceive Hitler, and that's exactly what they did, using fake messages, radio transmissions on channels monitored by the Nazis, and even entire armies. That didn't exist. In a brilliant operation, the Allies created the illusion that the real invasion would take place at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point between France and England. Inflatable tanks, wooden airplanes, and even false radio chatter were used to fabricate a phantom army. Even the legendary General George S. Patton was stationed there, leading troops that would never land. The deception worked. Hitler took the bait. Even when the first troops landed in Normandy, he believed it was just a diversion. His reserves remained frozen, waiting for an attack that would never come. By the time he realized the mistake, it was too late. The road to the liberation of Europe was now open, but for the soldiers about to step into the storm, no strategy could prepare them for the hell that awaited on the beaches of Normandy. 4:30 a.m., the darkness over Normandy is torn apart by a deafening roar. The sky lights up with the deadly glow of thousands of bombs raining down on the beaches. Allied warships unleash a relentless barrage against the Nazi defenses, while squadrons of bombers drop a storm of destruction. The earth shakes. The air is thick with the stench of gunpowder and the echo of explosions. But something goes wrong. Many of the German bunkers survive. The bombs dropped hastily to avoid hitting Allied troops missed their targets. On the ground, the Nazis emerge from their fortifications shaken, but ready. Machine guns are loaded. The weapons come to life. Hell is only beginning. 6:30 a.m. The ramps of the landing craft begin to lower. The moment of truth arrives, and then the slaughter begins. The first wave of Allied soldiers is met with a hurricane of bullets. The MG-42 machine guns rip through the air with a terrifying cadence, 1,200 rounds per minute. Men are shot before they can even step off the boats. Some fall dead into the water. Others try to swim, only to be swallowed by waves turned red with blood. Omaha Beach becomes an apocalypse. Bodies float in the crimson tides. Screams of agony blend with the thunder of explosions. Those who manage to reach the sand are met with a nightmare barbed wire. Smoking craters, a labyrinth of bunkers spewing fire from all sides. There is no cover. There is nowhere to run. And yet, they push forward. With water up to their knees, shoving aside the fallen, the survivors crawl across the beach. Every inch gained is paid for in blood. Officers shout orders that are drowned out by gunfire. Medics try to patch up the wounded amidst the chaos. Many don't make it far, but retreat is not an option. The fate of WWII is decided in this moment. Either they break through the defenses and climb those cliffs, or they die here. The dawn of hell has arrived, and there will be no mercy on Omaha Beach. Dawn had broken over Normandy, revealing a battlefield drenched in chaos and blood. But amidst the fire and steel, there were men who defied fear, who rose above the carnage, who became legends. The landings at Utah Beach unfolded in a way no one had predicted. Strong currents had pushed the American forces off course, landing them in a less fortified sector. What could have been a disaster became a stroke of luck. Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr., the eldest son of former President Theodore Roosevelt, was the first senior officer to set foot on the beach. Realizing the unexpected change, he simply shrugged and declared, "We'll start the war from right here." His calm leadership inspired his men, and Utah Beach became the most successful landing of the day. But elsewhere, the cost of every inch gained was paid in blood. On Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches, the British and Canadian forces faced a nightmare of machine gun fire, landmines, and anti-tank obstacles. At Juno Beach, the Canadians landed straight into the teeth of German defenses. The first waves suffered staggering losses, but those who survived fought with unwavering determination. By midday, they had pushed further inland than any other unit. At Sword Beach, the British met heavy resistance but advanced with calculated precision. One of the most remarkable moments came when Lord Lovat, a Scottish commando leader, stepped onto the beach playing bagpipes, rallying his men forward under a hail of bullets. And then there was Private Bill Millen, the soldier who played the bagpipes as bullets whizzed past him. He marched along the shore, defying death with each step. German snipers later admitted they hadn't shot him because they thought he was insane. But perhaps the most unforgettable moment of heroism belonged to Private First Class John Steele. Steele was part of the 82nd Airborne, dropped behind enemy lines hours before the main invasion. His parachute snagged on the church tower of St. Emeglis, leaving him dangling in full view of the Germans. He played dead for hours, watching helplessly as the battle raged below him. Eventually, he was captured, but he later escaped and rejoined the fight. These were the men who shaped history, not just soldiers, but heroes. Their sacrifice and determination ensured that D-Day would not be remembered as a tragedy, but as the beginning of liberation. The first waves of the DID landings had been a nightmare, a desperate struggle for survival against relentless German firepower. But now, as the hours passed, something changed. The tide was turning. With sheer grit and determination, the Allied forces clawed their way forward, trench by trench, bunker by bunker. Every Nazi stronghold had to be stormed, with brutal force grenades were lobbed into machine gun nests. Flamethrowers cleared out fortified positions, and close-quarters combat became a grim necessity. There was no turning back. At Omaha Beach, where the heaviest casualties had been suffered, the breakthrough came when small groups of survivors found gaps in the German defenses. They crawled up the cliffs, dodging sniper fire and artillery, and took the fight directly to the enemy. Engineers blew apart barriers, clearing a path for reinforcements. Bit by bit, the impossible was becoming reality. Meanwhile, on Utah, Gold, Juno and Sword beaches, tanks and artillery finally made landfall. The first hours had been fought with rifles and raw courage, but now, Sherman tanks, self-propelled guns, and armored vehicles rumbled onto the beaches, blasting away at German defenses. The sheer weight of firepower crushed the remaining resistance. And then, the final push. British forces moved inland toward Cannes, a crucial objective, while the Americans pressed toward Carrington and St. Ledge, securing vital roads for the next phase of the campaign. The Canadians, bloodied but unbroken, linked their forces to solidify the Allied foothold. By the end of June 6, D-Day had been won. The cost had been staggering, over 10,000 Allied casualties in a single day. But the mission had succeeded. For the first time since 1940, the Nazi grip on Western Europe was beginning to break. News of the landings spread across occupied France, sparking hope in the hearts of those who had suffered under Hitler's rule. The resistance intensified its efforts, sabotaging rail lines, ambushing German patrols, and preparing for the final battle to reclaim their homeland. D-Day was not just a battle, it was a message. The Allies had come, the road to liberation had begun, and nothing would stop them now. The battle for Normandy was far from over. The Allies had made their landfall, but the fight would continue, savage, relentless, and costly until the final victory in 1945. As the Germans retreated, they left behind a trail of destruction. The Luftwaffe was shattered, but the Wehrmacht remained a formidable foe. The Allies, although victorious on the beaches, faced a long and bloody slog through France. Each town liberated came at a high price, with bitter fighting in the hedgerows and across the countryside. The war, though decisively altered, was far from won, but D-Day was the turning point. It was on June 6, 1944, that the Allies seized the momentum from the Axis powers. The invasion opened a second front, forcing Hitler to fight a war on two fronts, weakening his stranglehold on Europe. It marked the beginning of the end for the Third Reich. As the days passed, the German army was pushed back, unable to hold their positions against the relentless advance of Allied forces. The sands of Normandy had shifted the course of the war, and there would be no turning back. For the soldiers who fought, the memory of that day, the pain, the sacrifice, the faces of those lost would never fade. They had stared death in the face and survived, but it was not without scars. They had fought through hell, driven not only by duty, but by the knowledge that this was the moment that would determine the future of the world. Many returned home, but others never left the beaches of Normandy. For the survivors, D-Day became a symbol, a tribute to the bravery of ordinary men and women who had done the extraordinary. They had fought to protect freedom, to end the tyranny of Nazi occupation, to break the chains that bound millions across Europe. The legacy of D-Day, etched in the annals of history, is more than just military victory. It's a story of sacrifice, courage, and perseverance. It's the story of how a single day, a single moment, changed the course of the Second World War and forever altered the fate of the world. If you like this type of content, like the video and subscribe to the channel, which helps us a lot. See you later.